All episodes of A Trial by Podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only. Much to their parents' dismay, neither host is a lawyer, journalist, or investigator. Just two people with microphones and Wi-Fi. All actions discussed are alleged, and all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. For the full legal mumbo-jumbo, check the show notes.
Having trouble hearing in work meetings? Eventually you zone out. You've missed too much to catch up now. Get your confidence back with Nuance Audio.
No worries, I just spoke with the sales office, and they assured me the order has already been processed.
The new invisible hearing solution that's built into your glasses. Nuance Audio glasses help you hear better and reduce background noise, so you can tune into your meetings all day long. Learn more at nuanceaudio.com.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Emily.
And in today's trial, we are discussing the brutal murders of an elderly couple, Fred and Edwina Rogers. Suspicion has always centered around their 43-year-old son, Charles, who vanished without a trace after the murders. But the question remains, why would Charles want to kill his parents? And how could someone with no surgical training carry out such a heinous crime? Well, this is a trial by podcast, so we'll let you be the judge.
Huzzah!
I'm trying out something new. You like that?
Can I just start by saying RIP, and I hope they rest in heaven to the two birds that I ran over on the way here?
No.
Because, listen, okay? They were fighting in the middle of the street, and we have a really bad bug problem right now, and there was one in my car. So I was trying to get the bug out of my car, didn't see the birds fighting in the street. I thought I could maneuver to go over them while they were fighting, and I look back and they were just not moving anymore. So.
In today's episode, we are discussing the two murders of birds by Emily.
I'm guilty. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
I know. I was thinking about it all the way over here and I feel really bad. So.
Oh, well, you should. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a crazy case for you guys today. We are talking about the Icebox Murders. And this is a relatively famous case, but I don't think, I haven't heard a lot of podcasts cover it. I will warn everyone, it is very gruesome, possibly the most gruesome case that we've talked about. I would not eat while you're listening to this episode, and you might not eat for a while after. It is a very, very sad story. I have a dinner to go to
after this.
Before we get into it, I wanted to bring up one thing because we got a message from a listener, and I'm sorry, I don't remember if it was a message or an email, so I'm sorry I don't remember the name. But in the Amber Tucaro episode, we were talking about some places there's a rule where you have to wait 24 hours before you can report someone missing. And it's funny because we recorded that before I recorded with Kristen from True Crime Creepers, because in one of the episodes that we did, Kristen was like, that's not real, right? They just tell people that, but that's not an actual rule.
What?
And I was like, what the hell? You're blowing my mind right now. So after we released that episode, which maybe I should have just cut that out when I said that, but I didn't. Someone messaged us and she's like, that's actually not true. It's not a real rule. You don't have to wait 24 hours. So if people are telling you that, then
they're lying.
You have to push back. So I wanted to share that piece of information just because I said that in the one episode. She's like, that's not real. So just in case, I want everybody out there to know that that's not a real thing, apparently. And have I fact checked this now that I'm speaking about it? I'm realizing I have not. But I trust Kristen and I trust this listener. She sent me a lengthy explanation of it. She said it so nicely too. I genuinely appreciate that.
I love that.
Some people have a really hard time doing that.
I love a nice correction. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I want to be corrected if I say something
absolutely,
wrong.
But not fucking castrated for it.
Yeah. I just don't want you to be like, you stupid fuck, you're a fucking horrible person.
Know?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, yeah. But what can you do? So just wanted to add that because I felt like that is important. But with that being said, shall we do it?
Let's do it. Huzzah. I'm gonna be annoying because of that comment.
Someone commented and she was like, I really love your podcast, but my ears would enjoy it no, I don't even think it was a comment. I think she emailed us about it. She's like, but my ears would enjoy it if you said huzzah less.
and to that I say, huzzah.
Yeah. And to that we say huzzah. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, people are so nitpicky. Like, it really bothers you that, I don't know,
maybe just send an email about it.
Maybe this is a consensus. Maybe people find huzzah annoying, but I'm like, I don't even think maximum we might say it 5 times in an hour and a half episode. So it was a sweltering June evening in 1965 when Houston police officers made a welfare check at a modest home in the Montrose neighborhood. Captain Charles Bullock and his partner, L.M. Barta, arrived at 1815 Driscoll Street to look in on an elderly couple, Fred and Edwina Rogers. Edwina's nephew, Marvin Martin, what a name, had grown worried after a few days of unreturned phone calls. And so he went over to their house to check on them, and there was no answer at the door. So with that, he calls police. Now, police find the same thing. They go to the house to do the welfare check, and there is no answer at the door. So the officers circled around the house to the back, and they noticed something odd. There were a bunch of flower pots propped up against the back door, almost as if to barricade it shut from the outside, like you're trying to keep someone in.
Oh, okay.
Not a good sign when you're doing a welfare check.
Mm-mm.
Now, sensing something was amiss, the officers forced their way inside, and the house was eerily quiet. A half-prepared meal sat on the dining table, and nothing obvious seemed out of place. Yet Bullock later noted something, quote, just didn't feel right in that house. Acting on a hunch, he opened the kitchen refrigerator where he found a ton of fresh meat, neatly butchered and stacked on the shelves. And he's thinking, this is kind of a lot of meat for 2 people. And he didn't really think too much of it, so he starts to close the fridge. But as he began to close it, a ghastly realization set in. Through the clear vegetable drawer at the bottom, Bullock spotted a human head staring back at him.
Nope.
And this was Edwina Rogers.
Nope.
Forensic testing would later show that all of that meat in the fridge, aka the icebox is what they used to call it, all of that meat in the icebox was actually the human remains of Fred and Edwina that had been dismembered.
That's so fucking wild.
Yes.
Could you imagine being the officer that finds that? Like, what the
No, the therapy you would
Dude,
need.
right? No amount of it could help me with that.
And I mean, that is like thank you to the people who do these jobs, because someone has to go get that and take it to to do an autopsy. Like, that is thank you to those people who do those jobs, because they have to be done. I mean, there's no way that you just can go home and like be the same after that, I feel like. And this is the thing about police too. Police officers, they do welfare checks all the time, and especially on elderly couples. Police officers find a lot of dead bodies, like a lot of dead people. It's a regular thing.
Not like cut up and put in a freezer.
Right.
With the head on the
Right.
drawer.
It's like an elderly person that has like passed away naturally in their home, or they fell, and but not like this. And this is just absolutely not even in the same realm. Like, I can't imagine. Now, Bullock later recalled, quote, "We opened up the refrigerator and saw nothing but meat stacked in it. My partner made the comment that it looked like somebody had butchered a hog. We didn't know it was a body until we could see the head down in the bottom of the vegetable bin," end quote.
And you just like make that realization, like, oh,
yeah,
this is like a person's meat. Like,
yes. Yes. And I hate, the word meat is like,
I know, that's so gross.
And wait, I want to make one thing clear. I meant to say this in the beginning, is like, because we've gotten 1 or 2 comments about this. I think most people fucking read context clues and they know. Sometimes we laugh when we're uncomfortable.
That's me all the time. So
That's
I apologize in advance.
Like, so if I tell you something gruesome and Emily chuckles before being like, oh my God, that's horrible, it's because it's an uncomfortable thing to hear. And we're not trying to be disrespectful. yada, yada. I feel like most people understand that it's like a natural human reaction sometimes to be like, that's when you're just shocked. I don't know. Just me. So the gruesome scene that confronted the officers that night would haunt them forever. And it marked the beginning of one of Houston's most infamous unsolved cases, soon known in local lore as the Icebox Murders. Unfortunately, the gruesomeness did not stop there, though. Once the shock of the discoveries subsided, investigators meticulously combed the Rogers home for evidence. The crime scene was as perplexing as it was horrifying. The bodies of 81-year-old Fred Rogers and his 79-year-old wife Edwina had been cut into dozens of pieces, all of which were thoroughly cleaned and carefully arranged in the refrigerator. In the adjoining kitchen and bathroom, remarkably little blood was found because the killer had apparently drained the victim's blood and cleaned up thoroughly after this carnage. He killed these people.
This is stressing me out. And I don't have, this is like, what are we, 10 minutes?
Oh, it gets worse.
Oh, God.
He killed these people. He drained them of their blood. He dismembered them, cleaned the parts of their bodies, and put them into the fridge. Okay? This is not a like, oh, I just snapped and killed somebody.
And just started chopping.
This was methodical. And in fact, investigators later determined that the dismemberment had been carried out in an upstairs bathroom by someone with a degree of anatomical knowledge. They said, quote, whoever did this apparently took their time and knew what they were doing, end quote. That's from the medical examiner on the case. This is an important fact. The average person does not just know how to drain a body of blood, okay? This is not just something, and this is 1965. So you can't just Google how to do things.
There's no TikTok.
Right.
There's no YouTube.
Yes. You can't just be Googling
Thank
this
God,
stuff.
Because
I would hope that you can't find that on TikTok or YouTube either. But it's like this was surgically neat. They were clean cuts. This was someone that knew what they were doing. And that is going to be an important fact because, like I said in the beginning, we're going to talk a lot about their son, but their son wasn't a doctor or anything of the sort. He was very intelligent, but it's interesting. Okay. Now, an autopsy later confirmed how the Rogers couple died. Edwina had been killed by a single gunshot wound to the head, essentially like an execution-style killing. Fred, on the other hand, had been brutally bludgeoned with a claw hammer, his skull beaten with such force that fragments were later recovered in multiple different areas of the home. Disturbingly, Fred's eyes had been gouged out of his head and his genitalia had been removed, suggesting that whoever did this felt a blinding rage towards Fred specifically. So
God damn, like what the hell?
It really seems like Edwina was killed just to end her life and Fred was killed like viciously.
Like torturously?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And on top of all of this, some of the couple's internal organs were later found in a sewer line after having been cut up and flushed down the toilet. It appeared the murderer had attempted to destroy evidence and conceal the crime in as thorough a manner as possible.
This is so much. Like, my face is just in a permanent, like, disgust. Ooh.
And that's the thing is, a lot of it's so gruesome. It sounds like an episode of Dexter or something. But the thing is this was all so meticulous and the house had been cleaned so well. It smelled of bleach. There wasn't a lot of blood anywhere. The bodies had been drained. They were then cut up. He put the organs down the drain, or the killer put the organs down the drain, and then the bodies were put into the refrigerator. And really what they're thinking here is that a lot of this was to conceal the crime. So he's trying to get rid of the bodies, and that's why he's putting them in the fridge so they don't start to decompose or to extend the period of which. So,
but then he flushed the organs down the toilet. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that gets him out of the house, I guess, but it's crazy. Like, he must have like clogged the drain because they were found in the sewer lines. And I'm also curious, I'm like, what made them look in the sewer lines to look for, I don't know, unless they realized that the organs were missing and they said, okay, what could they do with them? Maybe we should check if they were flushed. But it's absolutely, imagine if this is your loved one.
Yeah, that's,
I can't, it's horrific. Now, it's out of a horror movie, literally. Now, despite the killer's apparent efforts to clean up, one telling clue was left behind, a small trail of blood droplets leading to a bedroom on the second floor. And in that room, which turned out to belong to the couple's adult son, Charles Rogers, police found a blood-stained keyhole saw, possibly the very tool used to dismember the bodies. Now, I wasn't sure what a keyhole saw was, so I looked it up, and I'm glad I did, because for anyone else who doesn't know, it's basically just like a tiny handheld saw, usually narrow enough to fit inside like an old keyhole on a door. So picture the keyhole where it's like round on top and then kind of a trapezoid underneath.
Yeah.
Not like a keyhole today where it's just like a tiny dot. But it's a very small, very long, very narrow and thin saw. And the reason I bring this up is because it just looks like a really long, extra serrated knife, basically. And I bring it up because if this is what he used to cut up the bodies,
that had to have taken him forever.
Yes. That is what is so crazy about this.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This episode is brought to you by Hulu, presenting Paradise. Paradise is Hulu's critically acclaimed addictive drama series starring Sterling K. Brown, Julianne Nicholson, and James Marsden. The Daily Beast calls Paradise your next TV obsession, and the New York Times says it's exhilarating in all the right ways. Paradise is for your Emmy consideration in all categories, including Outstanding Drama Series. For more information, visit fyc.hulu.com.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. And as your vacation maximizationer, I'm going to make sure you hear the maximum sizzle of Comfort Inn's free hot breakfast. Let's get real close. Maximum apple. Now that's fresh crispimization. Maximum waffle. Hear that crunch. And that's maximum coffee. Oh yeah, that's the pour I'm talking about. Breakfast maximized before hitting the road. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
I mean, you would think that this thing would bend. Like when you Google a picture of one, if I'm not describing it right, but like it is actually crazy. And I think that's what he used. I mean, that's the only thing that they can find. That seems to be what happened here. Now, notably absent from the scene was any sign of 43-year-old Charles Frederick Rogers, who had still lived with his parents in that house. His car was gone, and a search of the premises suggested he had fled in a hurry, though without taking many personal belongings with him. From the moment police realized that the couple had an adult son who vanished, Charles became the prime suspect in his parents' murder. Detectives began piecing together a portrait of Charles and the family dynamic, looking for motive and clues to where he could have gone. They learned that Charles was kind of just an eccentric guy all around. Friends and neighbors described him as highly intelligent, brilliant even, but extremely reclusive, so much so that some neighbors didn't even realize that Fred and Edwina had a son who lived with them, because he just would never talk to anyone. And he actually kept odd hours too. He would often leave the house before dawn and return after dark, which for the neighbors, yes, because here's the thing, is he didn't have a job at this time.
Yeah,
at the time of the murders, he did not have a job. So where was he going all day? And no one really seems to know. This is an unanswered question, where he was going or what he was doing all day. And in fact, he rarely even spoke directly to Fred or Edwina. Instead, the family reportedly communicated by slipping notes under Charles's locked bedroom door. And inside his room, investigators found radios and electronics, hints of a private life that was just spent mainly in isolation by himself in his bedroom, like tinkering with gadgets and, I don't know, just odd, out of the ordinary. Yeah. Not to say that being a loner is odd, but like this is
That's to another level.
To be slipping notes underneath the door.
Yeah.
That shows you that there's either something very mentally wrong with him or there's something very weird with the family dynamic that's happening. And all of this context kind of makes Charles just sound like he's a bit of a drifter. He's a little off his rocker, maybe a dud of a man, just relying on his parents, even though he's 43. But that actually really wasn't the case, at least not for most of his life. Charles actually held a degree in nuclear physics from the University of Houston. This is
He's smart as fuck.
Yes, a very intelligent man. And on top of that, he served as a Navy pilot in World War II. And at one time, he worked for the Office of Naval Intelligence. So he wasn't just in the Navy. He was working for the intelligence office, and he was a pilot too. So the man is a nuclear physicist who flies planes and gathers intelligence for the military.
Is he in like the CIA too? Jeez, like what is going on?
I love that you said that because we are going to ask that question later on.
Ooh,
was he in the CIA? He also spoke 7 languages, which...
Oh, he was in the CIA for sure.
Like, damn, 7? 7 is crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's
I can barely learn 2.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Now, after his time in the Navy, he secured a job working as a seismologist for Shell Oil. And his job was basically to study the Earth's structure to help find pockets of gas, oil, or gold. And what this all means is big bucks.
I was going to say big money, big money, big money.
Big money, honey. And he actually even owned the home that he and his parents lived in. It was originally their house, but then he purchased it. So while it all sounds like, oh, he's just kind of like this maybe mentally ill guy, like living with his parents, he's unemployed. Like this was
he's actually got some secretive shit going on.
Yes, there's some stuff going on. Now, overall, like at the point where he's working for Shell, he seemed to be on a path towards affluence. Like he was going to be wealthy. He's intelligent. He's working an important job. That is until he suddenly quit this job in 1957. And he never got another job after that. So just up and quit, moves home, buys his parents' house, and no one really knows what caused him to quit and just become this recluse. But some suspect that maybe it was underlying mental illness or prolonged PTSD from his time in the war. By the day after the bodies were found, police publicly announced that Charles Rogers was their one and only suspect in the heinous murders. But the question still remained, why would he kill them?
Yeah.
There has to be a reason.
In that way also. Like,
yes,
what the fuck?
In this like absolutely heinous way. It's so perplexing, really. Now, if Charles did indeed slaughter and dismember his own parents, he had executed an almost perfect getaway. On the very day that the gruesome remains were discovered, Charles effectively vanished off the face of the earth. Houston authorities issued a bulletin and launched a nationwide manhunt for the missing son. At first, just to question him as a material witness, is what they said. But given the brutality of the crime, investigators strongly suspected that Charles was a killer on the run because there seemed to be a lot of anger, especially towards Fred, that was inflicted. Mm-hmm. And that makes you think that this is probably someone very close to this couple. So you combine that with he's gone. Well, I mean, put 2 and 2 together, really.
Right.
So detectives checked airports and bus stations, and they even reached out to the U.S. Border Patrol because Charles was an extremely experienced pilot who had learned to fly during his service as a Navy pilot in World War II, which I just realized I introduced that fact twice to you guys. So whoops. They worried that he could have flown himself out of town or even out of the country. And despite all of these efforts, the search turned up nothing. There were no confirmed sightings of Charles in the days, months, or even years. And I guess I should add decades because it's been decades now.
He's
vanished.
Just gone?
He's gone. No one ever found him to this day. Crazy. Now, in the absence of an arrest, the case grew cold, but it was never forgotten. Leads trickled in over time, some credible, but many not. Theories about Charles's fate proliferated. Some tips suggested that maybe he flew to Mexico or somewhere in Latin America, while other rumors claimed that he'd been sighted as far away as Europe. Law enforcement continued to pursue leads on Charles for years, but ultimately, after nearly a decade of fruitless searching, a Harris County judge issued a legal declaration in 1975 declaring Charles Frederick Rogers dead in absentia, which basically just acknowledges that if he's alive, he's been unfindable for 10 years, and we can't waste more resources on trying to find this man when he might just be dead. So legally, at this point in 1975, he's now presumed dead by law. But this is just a legal formality, and it's not actually any there's no proof of whether he was dead or alive.
Yeah, he could just be really good at hiding.
Exactly. And that's what I think, and that's what most people believe, is like he's good at hiding. Now, with their only suspect missing, the police were left with this open case and pretty much nothing else to work off of. So the Icebox Murders case turned into, like, the fact that he was gone and it just was unsolved and no one knows where he went, added on to the fact that this was such a gruesome and brutal crime, making it pretty much the most infamous cold case in Houston history. Now, in the late 1960s and the early 70s, without new evidence or sightings, the official investigation stalled. But in this vacuum of hard facts, speculation and rumor began to fill the void. And over the years, who killed Fred and Edwina Rogers and why became fertile ground for conjecture, to which we will add today. So there's not a lot of facts in the rest of this episode that we're going to talk about. There's a lot of speculation, and that is what we are going to do here today. I think this is an old enough case that there's not a ton of legal, we can speculate a little bit, but like we're about to talk about some crazy shit.
Oh, let's get into it. I have my theory, so.
CIA?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're going to kind of start with. So I think we can all agree that Charles being the killer seems to make a lot of sense. Like, the attack on Fred seemed to be very personal, and most murder victims are killed by someone close to them. And on top of that, Charles, like, disappearing Houdini act doesn't exactly make him look innocent. But what doesn't make sense is how Charles would have been able to carry out such a heinous crime. Because remember, this was done very methodically. They think it was someone with anatomical knowledge. And while he was very intelligent, he was a nuclear physicist.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're learning anatomy.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. He's a smart guy. You could probably figure it out. But like,
right.
I feel,
but it's
I'll let you, I'm going to wait and I'll tell you what I think happened.
Okay. Well, what's going to be, this CIA theory is going to go so far off from where you think it's going to go.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited to chat about it. But here's the thing is, like, there were no books found, but I think he's a very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
He could have read books about anatomy in preparation for this and destroyed the books or taken them with him, or you know what I mean? Like,
but again, why? That's so much.
That's the thing. And we are going to speculate on why and what other people have said. But there's not a ton of evidence to back up these theories. Okay. We're going to talk about two main theories. The first one's a little cuckoo nutso. The second one's a little bit more realistic, but still there's not a ton of like hard fact to back it up. Now, in the decades after 1965, this murder case attracted a host of conspiracy theories and amateur sleuthing. Perhaps the most outlandish theory, but the one that you're going to hear about anytime you look into this case, posits that Charles Rogers was not just a murderer on the run, but a clandestine CIA operative tied to one of the biggest crimes in American history. Any guesses on the crime?
Either Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy?
I think both of those happened after this, but you're not going to guess it.
Okay.
Because it's so fucking out of left field. They think that he was a CIA operative tied to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
Oh, what?
And this JFK conspiracy theory gained a lot of traction in fringe circles and was popularized by a 1992 book titled The Man on the Grassy Knoll by authors John R. Craig and Philip Rogers. Now, according to their speculative narrative, Charles had been involved with the CIA and even served as a pilot in the Civil Air Patrol, alongside known figures like David Ferry, who was investigated soon after the assassination.
So
now,
he was confirmed to be in the CIA?
No.
Oh.
They're saying that he was.
Oh, okay.
And because he was a Navy pilot and he worked for the Navy Intelligence Unit, they're saying that would then could lead to a career in the CIA in this Civil Air Patrol, which David Ferry was apparently in.
That's where.
However, I don't think that you can confirm who's in the CIA. Like,
that's fair.
Not for these, not if they're working as intelligence agents. So like, there's no actual proof to back that up. I'm not saying it's impossible, but there's no like, here's a list of people who were intelligence operatives in the CIA. So they're basically saying that we think he knew this guy, David Ferry. They worked together in the past. We think David Ferry was in the Civil Air Patrol. And we think that Charles Rogers was in the Civil Air Patrol with him. And David Ferry was investigated like right after John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And while officials seemed to rule him out, despite his anti-Kennedy speeches that he would go around giving before the assassination, like he was very much anti-Kennedy, he was very anti-communism, and he would go that's why he was investigated.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was reason to investigate him, but obviously he was never arrested for this. And again, there's no evidence that David Ferrie was in the CIA, but there's David Ferrie, like for people who are into JFK conspiracy stuff, David Ferrie's a big character in their book, even though I don't think we really learn about him in history class, but he's a big character.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Grandpa's here!
Hank's always helping out. Grandpa style. Now he's treating his prostate cancer with help from Xtandi enzalutamide. Xtandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Xtandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRESS, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Xtandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat start swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Xtandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Xtandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache. Talk to your doctor and visit Xtandi.com.
This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
Now, some theorists even point to this time, his apparent time in the Civil Air Patrol, claiming that he may have served in the same unit as Lee Harvey Oswald, who, as you know, he was the one that they're like, this is the guy.
Yeah.
Okay?
This is the guy.
So there's like different versions of this theory. It's like, well, it was him and David Ferrie. It was him and Lee Harvey Oswald. It was all three of them. There were more people. It was everybody in the CIA. That's like the big conspiracy theory, is that the CIA killed JFK.
Yeah.
Fun fact I just wanted to add about David Ferrie that I found is that David Ferrie is actually from Cleveland, and he went to St. Ignatius High School.
Oh, shit. No way.
Interesting. So, yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Now, this theory surrounding Charles claims that he was one of the mysterious quote-unquote 3 tramps that were photographed at Dallas's Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963. This is the day that JFK was assassinated. Now, the 3 tramps is basically a famous photo of 3 men who were being escorted out of the plaza by police after the assassination. They were arrested on suspicion of involvement, but they were later released. And according to JFK.org, these men were officially identified as Harold Doyle, John Gedney, and Gus Abrams. However, when you look at this famous photo, the face of one of the 3 men who the police are saying this is Gus Abrams, this man, but his face is hidden in the photo behind one of the other men. So some theorists speculate that it's not actually Gus Abrams and is actually Charles Rogers.
Oh, shit.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, how do you know?
That's
very speculative.
Yeah, it's just like one photo, and you can't. And
his face is hidden, so how do you know?
Yeah, and why? And if this guy is a part of this big CIA plan, like, why would they put him in a position where he's going to get arrested and investigated? Like, I don't know. Now, some even posit that Charles possibly impersonated Lee Harvey Oswald in Mexico City prior to the assassination. So I don't know why they say that he impersonated Lee Harvey Oswald in Mexico City. I don't like to throw them off their tracks or something before. I don't know. And I didn't look into it that much because I think that's fucking craziness. But in this telling, Charles supposedly recorded incriminating details of his CIA work and his role in the JFK assassination in secret diaries. And they speculate that Fred or Edwina discovered their son's diaries about the CIA work and all of his dark secrets. So he had no choice but to silence them. And in fear of being exposed, he brutally killed them to keep his CIA ties hidden. There's other ways that you could kill, like if you had to kill your parents just because they found out your secret and it's like, well, now I have to kill you. I feel like you could do it without gouging eyes out and removing genitalia.
Yeah. How many more theories are there? Because I really want to talk about what I think.
Hit me.
Okay. So I think he was in CIA, but I think that's why he got mixed up with some bad people, and the people came, took him, and killed his parents.
I like that theory more than this.
Me, that's what I'm saying.
Theory.
I'm like, dude, that makes sense to me. Like, I don't know why.
But why
it
would it be so much anger towards Fred if it
because
wasn't
maybe he
him?
was the closest to his dad. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe his dad put up the biggest fight. I don't know.
I think compared to this theory, that's much more of a reasonable explanation, for sure.
That's what I think.
Now, this is a sensational story, obviously. It sounds like a Hollywood movie, but importantly, there's no credible evidence that has ever emerged to substantiate any of these claims. Even though there's a whole book about it, you know what I mean? Like, there's no evidence.
No solid evidence, yeah.
Police never found some CIA diary, and mainstream investigators considered the JFK connection to be a baseless local legend.
But even if they did find it, would they tell us?
No, but but there's no, just because there's not, we can't get evidence again or like for it doesn't mean there's just nothing. There's just nothing. Like, so is it possible this is what happened? Sure. Maybe it's possible. Is it likely? I would say absolutely not. Now, the fact that, it is. I like that people are just this intrigued by things. Now, the fact that Charles had a background in the military and in military intelligence specifically, and also a scientific education, I think these things helped fuel conspiracy flames. But again, there's no verified link between Rogers and the Kennedy assassination or any of these people. Like, they're saying he knew Lee Harvey Oswald. There's no evidence of that. They're saying he knew David Ferrie and they were pilots together. There's no actual evidence to prove that. So it's all conjecture pretty much, but it remains, people hold this firmly, and it's in the realm of speculation. People talk about it a lot, so I'm going to talk about it.
Makes sense to me. It must be true.
I just like that you said CIA before I even got to it. I'm like, dude,
because
you're on it.
Anything intelligence, I'm like, this guy sounds perfect material for the CIA. He kept to himself. He was very quiet, blah, blah, blah. Like, he was smart as fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like very good formula.
I think it's possible. Like, maybe he was. He is, yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
But I also feel like if you're in the CIA, like, wouldn't you have a cover of some sort? Like, wouldn't you just not be an unemployed 43-year-old man living with your parents? You know what I mean?
Maybe that
like,
was the cover.
Maybe, I guess. But it just seems like a big change from when he was, like, very
like the
successful.
switch up was crazy, yeah.
Now, the other thing I want to say about this is, like, I also feel like if the CIA, whether it was Charles or someone else from the CIA that did this, like, if they found out that Charles was in the CIA and they were like, we got to kill them, I just feel like they're going to do it in a way that's way less conspicuous than this. Like, Fred and Edwina were elderly, and they were pretty elderly for the time, especially. Like, this is 1965. Like, you could have done something to make this look like an accident, or to make it look, could have done like a murder-suicide.
A car accident.
A car accident. You honestly, if they don't have, I mean, I guess she obviously had that nephew that was worried about her and called, but it's like, you could have done this in a way less conspicuous way. You could have just hidden the body somewhere. Like, if the CIA can do anything, it's make sure a body is never found. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And so why would they do it like this? In this way that they know it's going to be all over.
I don't think it was the CIA. I think he got mixed up with somebody while he was with the CIA.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we're going to fuck up your parents.
Right. Now, let's talk about kind of the other end of the spectrum, a more grounded theory, because this theory emerged from a detailed reexamination of the case in the late 1990s. Hugh and Martha Gardenier, a Houston couple and amateur investigators. We love an amateur investigator.
Cough, cough, me and Kelsey.
Yes. As long as you're not insane with it and you're respectful and blah, 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 which
the whole shebang.
Now, they I like that. I read that they were described as forensic accountants by trade. Like, so a forensic accountant is a real thing, like with white collar crimes. They're detecting, they're looking through books and records to detect like tax fraud and all of these things. So this is going to tie into this theory and why they were so interested. So keep that in mind. Okay. But this couple basically spent years researching the Rogers family and the Icebox Murders. And in 2003, they published a book titled The Icebox Murders. Creative. A fact-based true crime account that put forth their hypothesis of what really happened. Now, I want to be straightforward with you guys. I did not read this book, and I've only read what I'm about to tell you about this book online. Now, there's 2 reasons I didn't read this book. 1, I procrastinated on this episode, and I didn't know there was a book until like 2 days before we recorded, so I don't have time to order it. 2, sometimes like if that happened to me in the past and I like delayed the whole episode and wrote a whole new one like last minute. But the reason I didn't do that this time is because everything you read about this book talks only about their theory on the case, but does not talk about any of the evidence that they put forth to back up this theory, which makes me think it's not in the book. They don't have a lot of credible evidence to back up this theory, because otherwise these articles and stuff that are referencing it would that information. Yeah. And they're not, because it's probably not credible. So I could be absolutely wrong about that, but to me, I read this and I'm like, I don't know that this book sounds very... I'm not trying to be mean to these people, but it doesn't really sound worth my time a little bit. Now, if I'm wrong, you guys let me know and I'll read the book, but yeah. But with that being said, the Gardineers concluded in this book that much as Houston police had long suspected, Charles Rogers did indeed kill his parents, but their proposed motive was deeply personal rather than this other conspiracy theory about JFK. According to their investigation, Charles had endured years of abuse and exploitation at the hands of Fred and Edwina. They alleged that Fred was an angry, violent man who worked as a bookie and was involved in illegal activities. I think this is like for sports betting.
Oh, yeah, so they keep the bets.
But like, you remember did you ever watch What's That Show with Cillian Murphy? So a bookie is, I had to Google this to explain it properly, but a bookie is a person who determines gambling odds and receives and pays off bets. Yeah. So basically, I think they're...
What is that show called? Because it's on the tip of my tongue now and I don't remember what it is.
Oh, fuck. I don't know, and I love it.
It's like Gentlemen... I don't fucking know.
Dude, we should do an episode about that, because that's based off real people.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm doing that.
I'm thinking of a different movie, I think.
Peaky Blinders. Yeah, we're doing an episode on Peaky Blinders.
Hell yeah.
Get ready, y'all.
I love Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. Okay, I'm very excited. It's going to be 15 parts. So basically, they're saying that he was like a corrupt bookie. Like he's messing with people's gambling money. Therefore, he's a criminal. Right. He's involved in some bad stuff with some bad people. That's this theory. He was involved in illegal activities with dangerous people. And the point of this is not that they're saying these other people did this to Fred, which also, I guess, is probably a theory that's out there. But the point is that, like, Fred was not a good dude. He was a bad dude, and they treated their son badly. They uncovered, quote-unquote, evidence that they say suggested that even as an adult, Charles was very controlled and manipulated by his parents. There is a little bit of evidence to this, it sounds like, because they showed that Edwina had allegedly cashed Charles's paychecks and siphoned money from him. I don't know how they knew this. However, they did show that the parents had taken out loans in Charles's name. So they say that this was without his knowledge, which I feel like it probably was, because why wouldn't he, if he was going to help them with money, why wouldn't he just do it in his own name? Like, why would he make them like kind of commit fraud in order to do it?
Yeah.
So that part is true. And I think that's an important point, because if they're taking this money from him, they're taking out loans in his name, that makes it more believable to me that she was siphoning money from him. Mm-hmm. And basically they're saying, like, Charles would work and then he would give the paychecks to his parents, and like he was just completely controlled by them even as a grown adult. Now, there were also accounts of severe emotional abuse from both parents, and possibly physical and sexual abuse by Fred. And if true, this could help explain a few things. First, if there was sexual abuse, that could be the motivation for the removal of Fred's genitals. That makes a lot of sense to me personally. Second, this could explain why Edwina was shot while Fred was killed much more brutally. He was bludgeoned to death, his eyes were gouged out, and his junk was removed. Like, there has to be a reasoning for why they were killed so differently.
Yeah.
And to me, physical abuse makes sense. Sexual abuse even seems more... I'm more inclined to think it was both physical and sexual because of the removal of the genitals.
Yeah.
But I also think even if it was just physical, like I could see that, you know, removing someone's manhood is like just a revenge filled, like this is the worst thing I could do to a man type of thing. So I don't know for sure. But all of this is allegedly, obviously. I have no proof to prove that there was physical or sexual abuse.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Your gut affects everything, even your mood. So Ollie created 2 brand new products to take care of your insides. Ollie Big 10 Probiotic has 10 strains of probiotics, their most ever, to support a healthy gut microbiome, immune system, and stress response. And Ollie Super Good Superfoods delivers 15 superfoods in tasty gummy form. Find them at ollie.com and exclusively at Walmart.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
But the math's there in my mind. Now,
I mean, I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it too. Third, this could also explain the motivation behind the fact that, according to the ME, the murders likely took place on Father's Day. So they were found, and then basically they did an autopsy to try and determine the actual time of death. And they think they had actually been killed at like about 3 days before, which was June 20th. It was Father's Day. So that adds up. Fred was killed much more brutally. He literally gouged his eyes out. Like, that makes me...
I don't like that at all. I don't want to think about how that happened.
I don't either. But then all of this was done on Father's Day. And like, to me, there's a lot of symbolism happening here. But at the same time, it's like, well, then why kill the mom? I guess maybe because she didn't stop it, or she was also emotionally abusive, even though Fred was worse. I don't know. But it's really, really interesting.
But then to like cut them up after? Like, what the what
and
is
that's
that
what
about?
they say. A lot of people believe that the actual, like, the draining of the blood, the dismembering, and the flushing the organs, that it wasn't like how you would hear with like a serial killer where it's some like sick enjoyment thing. It was
just to get rid of the
practical.
evidence.
It was so it was to buy him time before people found them or before they started to decompose and smell. And it was to buy him time so he could get away. He gets rid of the organs by flushing them. He gets rid of the blood because that can, like, they do that when they embalm people.
Yeah.
He dismembers them and then puts them in the fridge because that is going to slow the decomposition. And yeah, it's
that's a lot.
Gruesome.
Yeah.
But, and it does just seem like, I feel like he got wind of the fact that the police are there, like, and left earlier than he wanted to if he did this, because they also said he took very few personal belongings with him. And I'm just like, if you're just going to leave right after, why would you do all of that?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like his plan was foiled by the cousin calling for the welfare check, and they were found sooner than he wanted them to be. Like, I feel like he was trying to buy more time, and then he was going to dispose of the dismembered parts at some point. I don't know if he was going to try and stay.
That's so fucked up, though. Like, to have your... I don't know what's more fucked up, is like to kill your parents this way, or to like keep them, or like their body parts around to like...
I don't think either.
Dispose at a later date. It's just like, this man had to have been so mentally fucked up. Like, I don't know who can do this to you.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, even just physically, even if it was random people you don't care about. Like,
yeah.
How could you? That's
That's why I'm like, but to do it to your own like parents and family is like, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, but I absolutely, it's fucking crazy. And the picture painted by the Gardener's theory was basically just one of a 43-year-old man pushed to a breaking point by his domineering, deceitful parents that had been that way his entire life. And they theorized that in this storm of pent-up rage and despair, he murdered Fred and Edwina in their home, the very home that he owned, which his parents were allegedly slowly stealing from him via forged deeds and loans.
So his parents weren't great people.
No, it doesn't sound like they were great people. And again, this is all allegedly, but if this is true, it's not looking good for them. Now, the gruesome dismemberment and extensive cleanup in this theory were part of Charles's effort, like I said, just to conceal the crime long enough to escape. And they believe that after committing the murders, he probably fled Houston, eventually making his way to Latin America, possibly Mexico or Honduras. But basically, here's the thing is, I guess he had previously done some work when he was in the Navy, like in Latin America. And that's why they say Mexico or Honduras is likely, is because he's familiar with those areas. But they think basically he just lived under a new identity and later died in obscurity, just lived out his life. And this theory of familial...
That's giving so much of like ex-CIA operative, like, oh yeah, we just never found him, so we're going to mark him as dead.
Well, that's the thing too, is like, well, I think they marked him as dead legally because they didn't want to spend more like resources on looking for him.
Right, but also that's like a CIA person's like dream come true is to be dead when they're not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like maybe I just watched too many movies, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I also think it's possible he was in the CIA, but this murder had nothing to do with him being in the CIA.
It could, yeah.
But also, there's just no evidence to show that he was in the CIA.
Yeah,
which, again, you have that question of, well, would there be? Yeah. I don't know. But we knew that he was a naval intelligence officer. So
he was up there. He was up there with, like, he was probably buddies with the CIA.
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. But I think the CIA, in my mind, this is why we're a good duo for podcasting. Is
because I have these fucking wild ass.
Yes, you are a total, like, you're like, hold on.
Aliens.
I think that you're like, John Bonet might be Katy Perry. Like, and I'm like, no.
Okay, I didn't say that.
I'm kidding. But it reminds me of Ryan and Shane from BuzzFeed Unsolved. I fucking love them. They talk about unsolved cases, but then they also do like ghost hunting stuff. And Ryan totally believes in the conspiracy theories. He believes in the ghosts and he's always fucking terrified. And then Shane's like the one that's like, I think it was probably just the husband. I just think that makes more sense than it being,
that drawer opened just because the earth shifted.
Right, literally. and I'm like, I feel like that's me and you. Yeah. We're to a lesser extent than them.
Do you believe in ghosts? Or because I don't like to talk about it, but they're there.
Do we start a ghost segment? And
no, because I don't
stories?
I don't want those vibes.
Okay.
I don't like the vibes.
I don't not...
I'll listen to them.
A lot of the
stories, to talk about my vibes of the scary stuff, no thank you.
A lot of the stories about ghosts, I don't believe. Like, I hear stories about ghosts, I'm like, I can tell you 5 ways that happened that make more sense than it being a ghost.
Okay, so you're a Mythbuster.
But I believe in spirits. I believe that after we pass, our spirit is somewhere.
Souls? Yeah.
Souls are somewhere. I don't think we just disappear.
I do think that there's like energies that
I agree with
saying?
that. Like, I don't want to sleep in this house that they were killed in.
No,
you know
I
what
also
I mean?
don't
Like,
want to sleep in the basement of Wine Dive. So
that's true. If you're local, that's so funny. But yeah, so this is really, to me, I'm more leaning towards like, I think either he was extremely mentally ill and he did this to his parents, or his parents, specifically the dad, especially, like they were doing something to him. They were abusive or something. I do think it's possible that maybe there was some underlying mental illness, and maybe like he started to believe something about the parents that wasn't true, like having not hallucinations, but what's the word? Delusions. Like he had some delusions. I don't know, but there seems to be some evidence of like the parents were
not the best,
committing some financial crimes against him.
Right.
So this theory of familial abuse and parricide is compelling in its simplicity, in my opinion. I usually This is not always the case, but usually the most simple explanation is the right one, I find, but maybe that's just me. But they think it's rooted in financial records and in interviews that the Gardeniers conducted with like family members and some of the neighbors as well. Still, it must be noted that this is just a theory, and without Charles Rogers to confirm or deny anything, the true motive and the exact sequence of events on Father's Day in 1965 remain completely speculative. The Houston Police Department, for its part, maintained Charles as their only suspect, but they never officially closed the case on the record. So to this day, it's considered an open cold case, and it's in the archives, basically. Okay. And nearly 6 decades have passed since the bloody contents of that icebox shocked the city of Houston. The Rogers house on Driscoll Street was eventually demolished, and today there's a bunch of new condos that occupy the lot.
Oh, yikes.
I wonder if those people know. They have to if they're local.
I don't know.
Like,
How
that's
does
got to
that
be
work?
local
Because
lore.
I know that like if you ask, they have to like tell you if somebody died in the house. But I don't know how that works.
I don't
on
think
like
the land though.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't know. And actually, I don't think that's a rule everywhere. Like that they have to tell you.
To be honest, I don't want to know. So
yeah.
Unless there's like creepy shit going on, then I don't really want to know.
I would want to know.
I don't.
If someone just died in the house, if they just passed away because they were old or something, maybe I don't want to know that because I would think about
like
it.
That.
But like if they were brutally murdered in the house, like I would want to know because I wouldn't buy it. I really wouldn't. I would not buy a house where someone was murdered.
I mean, neither would I, but I also wouldn't. I don't know. It's like The Conjuring. Like, would they have bought the house if they knew what happened in it? No.
Yeah, so today there's condos on the lot, but the story of what happened there just kind of endures as a very morbid piece of local folklore. And officially, the murders are unsolved. No one has ever been arrested or tried, and unofficially, most investigators and informed observers have little doubt that Charles Rogers was the culprit. And his legal death declaration in 1975 and no confirmed sightings of him after the murders kind of, in my opinion, like it was Charles. It was, unless someone took him and killed him, it was Charles. And I don't, why would they take him out of the house to kill him?
Yeah. I feel like it was way too personal to be, I don't know.
Yeah. But to me, this case it's just kind of like a chilling reminder that crimes can captivate the public imagination for generations without, even though we don't technically have the answers, but we have the answers. Yeah, it's still this huge, like, speculative thing. And I think the reason for that is there's not a great answer to why. We have a little bit of an inkling. I can see, like, there's financial motivation that maybe the parents weren't so great. But, like, we don't have solid answers of, like, yes, here's this record and history of abuse throughout the years. And then it's like, I think people would be less captivated by it because it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That not makes sense, like, oh, it's okay to murder your parents like this so gruesomely, but it makes sense as to you can see the motivation for it. So yeah, and that is the case of the Icebox Murders that is going to live forever in folklore.
Yeah, that's a ugh. I don't want to like I'm all I can picture is the fucking fridge, so
yeah,
and I don't like that.
It's a gnarly one. All right, well, on that very gruesome and horrible note, I think the court is adjourned for the day.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Now, if you guys love the pod, make sure you're following us wherever you're listening so you don't miss out on any future episodes.
And while you're at it, we'd be forever in your debt if you had left us a 5-star rating.
For more content from us, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Both are at A Trial by Podcast.
You can also follow us on our Facebook and join our Facebook group.
You can shop our merch by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting our website, atrialbypodcast.com.
A Trial by Podcast is a fully independent podcast. If you'd like to help support us, you can do so by donating through the link in our show notes.
The site we use for this is called Buy Me a Coffee, but don't worry, your donations will never be used for coffee or frivolous things, only for expenses related to running and growing the podcast. So thank you guys for your support.
Thank y'all. Huzzah.
Huzzah.